So every year, we get this big list of the world's most innovative cities. But for 2025, you can basically throw the old rulebook out the window. A single, pretty major change in how we measure innovation has completely redrawn the map, giving us a new number one and shining a light on some seriously surprising new powerhouses. So, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll talk about what these idea factories even are. Then, we'll dive straight into the new 2025 ranking and see who's on top. After that, we'll zoom out and look at the new global innovation map. And finally, we'll get into a really fascinating new idea that kind of proves size isn't everything. All right, let's get right into it. First up, let's get a handle on the real engines of the global economy, these amazing idea factories. So let me ask you, where do you think those huge, world-changing ideas actually come from? You might imagine they're just popping up randomly all over the globe, but the truth is, they're incredibly concentrated in just a handful of very specific hotspots. And these hotspots have a name: innovation clusters. You can think of them as these super dense ecosystems. They're these geographic pockets that are just packed with top universities, R&D labs, brilliant inventors, and investors with deep pockets. They are literally the beating heart of a country's entire innovation system, creating this perfect environment where brand new ideas can spark, catch fire, and grow. Okay, so now let's get to the real core of the story. Because this year, the way these clusters are ranked has been completely turned on its head, totally rewriting the leaderboard. See, for years, the ranking was pretty straightforward. It was based on two main things: patent applications, which tells you where the inventors are, and scientific publications, which maps out where the top researchers are working. But for 2025, they've added a third piece to the puzzle, and it is an absolute game changer: venture capital deals. Yep, for the very first time, the index is following the money to see where the real startup action is. So you might be thinking, okay, come on. How much of a difference can one little metric really make? Well, as it turns out, it changes pretty much everything. For the first time in years, there is a new king of the hill. We have a brand new global leader. And the new number one innovation cluster in the entire world is Shenzhen, Hong Kong, Guangzhou in China. Now, what's so wild about this is that for ages, Tokyo, Yokohama owned that top spot, just based on its sheer volume of patents and papers. But here's the thing: Shenzhen, Hong Kong, Guangzhou is an absolute beast when it comes to venture capital deals, and that financial firepower is what launched it straight to number one. Rounding out the rest of the new top five, you've got the classic powerhouse San Jose, San Francisco, followed by Beijing and Seoul. All right, let's pull the camera back a bit. Beyond the top five, how is this one new metric really changing the entire map of global innovation? Well, if you look at it by country, China is still in the lead with 24 clusters in the top 100. But the United States is breathing right down its neck with 22. And actually, adding that VC data has helped the US close the gap, since so many American cities are magnets for startup funding. Meanwhile, Germany is holding steady in a distant third with 7 clusters. But the biggest winner here? The country that got the most incredible boost from this new way of counting things? Well, it wasn't China. And it wasn't the US. It was another Asian giant entirely. I'm talking about India. This is where you really see the power of tracking that venture capital. India's innovation hubs just shot up the list. Bengaluru leaped 31 spots to land at 21st. Delhi jumped an incredible 37 spots to 26th, and Mumbai soared 42 spots all the way to 46th. This just goes to show how much vibrant, well-funded startup energy there is in India that just wasn't being fully captured before. So everything we've talked about so far has been about sheer size, the total number of patents, publications, and deals. But this new report gives us a totally different and maybe even more insightful way to look at innovation. Which brings us to a really important question, right? When it comes to breakthrough ideas, is bigger always better? Just because a cluster is huge, does that automatically make it the most productive? To answer that, the index uses this brilliant metric called innovation intensity. Instead of just counting up the totals, it measures the cluster's innovative output, all that stuff, patents, papers, and VC money, relative to its population. So it's not about who's the biggest, it's about who produces the most per person. It's a measure of pure pound-for-pound efficiency. And oh boy, when you rank the list by intensity, things look very different. San Jose, San Francisco rockets back to the #1 spot, showing just how incredibly productive it is. You also see the classic university towns, right? Cambridge and Oxford in the UK, plus Boston, Cambridge in the US. They all rank super high. But then, look at #4, a city in China called Ningde. I'm willing to bet most of us have never even heard of it before. So, how on earth does a relatively small city become one of the most intensely innovative places on the planet? Well, this quote from the report says it all. Its ranking is driven almost entirely by a tidal wave of patent activity from just one company, CATL, which is an absolute global giant in battery technology. And this reveals two completely different ways to become an innovation superpower. On the one hand, you've got the size model, like Shenzhen, Hong Kong, Guangzhou, a massive, sprawling ecosystem with thousands of companies and universities all working together. And on the other hand, you have the intensity model of Ningde, hyper-focused, incredibly potent innovation driven by the sheer inventive power of one single dominant company. And that leaves us with this one last fascinating question to chew on. As we look at this new map of global ideas, what's really the better recipe for the future? Is it the massive, bustling energy of a huge startup scene? Is it the deep, foundational research from a world-class university? Or could it be the focused, relentless drive of one single game-changing company? It seems the answer is not so simple.